is the greatest moment in my life. Andy's on mute. Great start to the show.
No, I'm not on mute. It's the internet again. Fuck's sake.
Oh, it's going to be a fun episode, folks.
Do you know what happens, mate? Do you know what happens? Well, first of all, ayo. Good evening, everyone. Do you know what happens, though? When my internet is playing up, it makes everything lag and go really slowly. So whenever you play a video, so like the intro or the Hall of Lame segment or anything like that, sometimes it doesn't play on my screen. And I'm sat there thinking, shit, is everyone, am I still live? Is everyone still looking at me? What's going on? And then it'll catch up after the fact. So then when you do that, StreamYard automatically mutes the microphone, doesn't it?
It does.
And when we come back from playing the video, it takes a second or two for my internet to catch up and unmute me.
I feel that may not be the internet, and it may be your incredibly decrepit laptop.
Maybe. Yeah. Also, I'm running this new microphone still, aren't I? So maybe my laptop's being a bit like, ain't sure about this, pal.
Yeah, I can just about cope with the web browser. You now throwing a microphone at me, that's too much to ask.
Yeah, the thing is, my internet's been fantastic all day, and I've done a few speed tests beforehand. And it's literally, as we went live, I had the little signal drop out and then drop back in again. So it's come back and it's back to being super good again now. Okay. But it's literally as we went live. So hopefully it's that tiny little glitch. That tiny little
for the rest of the show.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. Because we've got a bumper show again, haven't we, this week? Our 99th episode, live episode, Magsy.
It is. Mental.
Mad, isn't it?
Mental.
Absolutely insane.
How have we been allowed to be on the air for that long?
Well, yeah, and you take into consideration pre-live stuff as well. It's 130 odd episodes now. You know, what is the stat that you said once? A lot of podcasts don't get past 5 episodes or 10 episodes or something like that.
It's 10. Most 10. Podcasts people give up before 10 episodes because it doesn't become a massive instant hit and they get disheartened. But yeah, we've kept going even though ours has not been a massive instant hit, and we've both been disheartened about it. But yeah.
Yes, but that's because we have the wonderful CWF and our own little community who join us live every Monday night. And to those glorious, lovely, wonderful people, I say good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, an SJP World Media production. I am Si. And with me, as always, is the dude love to my what is love. Magsy, don't hurt me no more. The Stone Cold to my lukewarm at best, a podcaster who runs the Burnley Body Shop, but that one doesn't deal in secondhand cars like the Briscoes. Oh no, you know what I mean. The Podfather himself, Lord Magsy. How are you, sir?
I'm good. The Burnley fucking Body Shop, Jesus Christ. That must be down the back alley where you need a special kind of invitation to enter. Yeah, I'm doing really good. Finally, the weather up here in the north is thinking it's going to subside, so we're actually going to get a little bit of sun. So, yeah, all good in the hood.
We just had rain, mate. Just rain. Lots and lots
of rain. That's what we've had rain for weeks. Absolute weeks. But today we've had
you got to be careful where you are as well, mind, because you're like in a valley, ain't you? You might fill up.
We're on the top of a valley, though.
Oh, okay.
So the actual town of Burnley will flood before we do. So we'll get to watch the uncleansed masses like scrape for existence, and we'll just be laughing while smoking our pipes.
I forgot. I forgot who I was talking to. Obviously, exactly. The Lord himself. He's in his.
You think I'd drown with these scumbags?
He's in his castle, overseeing all his land, isn't he?
All I survey.
Oh, Magsy. Have you seen this horrible injury? Literally, I saw it on my phone. A football injury that's happened. I saw it on my phone about 5 minutes before we went live. I saw the picture and I was like, "Whoa, that is terrible." It makes Sid Vicious look like he stubbed his toe.
No, I'm not.
Oh my word! Luciano something, or Luciano Sanchez, maybe. Somebody in the chat is bound to know. Give us the guy's name. Please don't share the image on here I have ever seen. And I imagine there's plenty of people who do not want to see it. But oh my goodness, Magsy, you got to check that out. It is rancid, mate. This poor dude. Luciano injury. I think you want to type in maybe or something like that.
Never seen it. I may share this.
Why? I just said don't share it because it's going to be gross.
I've got a video of it now.
Oh, I'm not seeing the video.
Let's see if I can share it. No,
What?
I'm not going to share it.
But if you have a nervous disposition,
I'm not putting it on. I've just got it on the side at the background. So if I look and go, oh, then you know.
Okay, yeah, it is horrific. I don't know what made me think of that right this second, but yeah, it is not a good look. Yeah, what? Magsy's face that tells a story.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh, yeah, that's not good.
There's a picture of him getting carried away.
R.I.P. for Luciano Sanchez's leg in the chat. Jesus,
yeah. There's a picture of him getting carried away on a stretcher as well, and you see his knee in there. It's all
facing the wrong way.
It's
facing the wrong way, folks. It's horrific. Thanks for starting the show with that atrocity, sir. Amazing.
You're very welcome, mate. You're very welcome. On that note, you can see behind me Big Bob saying good vibes only, which is what we wish Luciano after that horrific injury, I guess.
I think vibes are going to be the least of his problems. Yeah. Like learning to walk again might be like higher on his list.
Yeah, it's not a good one, is it? It's not a good one. But anyway, shall we see who's joined us in the chat early on, Mr. Magsy?
Yes, we shall. So first up, the amazing artist who provides us with weekly splash screens for our show. It's always appreciated. King's Pig's Bladder.
Is that what it's called? A splash screen?
Well, a static screen. They're called splash screens in gaming, aren't they? So that's where I got it from.
Do you want to tell people what the WhatsApp was that I sent you to say that we had one?
Oh no, I don't remember. You just said
I sent you Pig's Bladder has made us a thingy.
A thingy, yes, you did. You did. That's very true. Next in the chat, as always, Sharon with It's Monday night. You know what that means. It won't be Monday night next week, but we'll get onto that in a few minutes. Dan Griffin in the chat. Evening, you glorious mudder fluffers. Connor in the chat as well. Hello, Mags. Hello, Connor. How are you, sir? Dan Griffin, new record, internet bullshit, 2.6 seconds in. So shove more coal on the fire, powering the laptop. He's got one of those where you have to just keep winding it, like one of them like camping torches. You just have to wind it and wind it and wind it. You'll get 10 seconds of light. Well, that's what Si has to do with his laptop.
Got to poke the hamster to make it run in the wheel.
And Dan's also complaining straight away. Sharon's sending me Cody gifts again. Make her stop. I wonder if it's gifts of Brock Lesnar passing the torch to Cody.
Oh,
with the handshake. That actually blew me away. Yeah, blew me away. King Pig's Belly says that's just uncalled for, Dan. And it's facing the wrong way multiple times. Yeah, his knee. Oh, it's grim. And on that note, hello, Charlie. How are you? You definitely don't want to look up that injury because it is brutal. King Pig's Bladder saying, I'd seen the still, but the aftershot is horrible. I've just watched the video and it literally has made my stomach churn. And then Dana said, I actually didn't mind the handshake. It was a hell of a moment. Yeah, it was. I mean, we'll probably get to SummerSlam. I assume you've watched it by now, sir.
Yep.
It was a very busy weekend in terms of sports content, I suppose. But yeah, so that's all the chat caught up for this week.
Well, let's dive into it then. You say it's a busy weekend for sports content. I mean, for me, it was SummerSlam wrestling wise. That's all I really watched. It was a good show. It had some good moments, but
then some wank. They had some wank as well, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Cody Brock stole the show. I thought that was the best match of the night.
Yeah. I mean, Ricochet and Logan Paul was a great opener as well, though.
Yeah,
It wasn't perfect, but it was a good opener. But yeah, it was a show of 2 hours. I actually was watching on 3 separate screens because UFC, SummerSlam, and Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz were all literally on at the same time. So I had 3.
Yeah.
It was like a cinema. But SummerSlam was the Cody match was superb. The bit that really ruined it for me though was, and it's probably the first time in this whole storyline that I feel like saying this, but the bloodline stuff just it jumped the fucking shark, didn't it?
It's gone now, isn't it? It's gone.
Yeah, that ruined it.
Yep.
The whole point of Jimmy and Jay leaving the bloodline because Jimmy had issues with Roman, and then for him to turn on Jay in the match, and then in between the tribal combat match where nobody else was meant to get involved, and yet
everyone got involved.
Yeah, it was bad booking. It was bad booking.
The match itself as well, Magsy, I thought wasn't that good. It was so slow and ploddy, and
they've had better matches. They've had a lot better matches. Yeah, it would. Maybe they should have dropped the title to Cody at WrestleMania.
But Roman apparently is going to be away again for a little while, isn't he? So this is Jimmy versus Jay is to give they're to carry on the storyline on SmackDown. But it's like I don't. It just wasn't for me, mate. It was just slow, ploddy, and so on. And Cody, I think, is going to be the guy who goes on to beat Roman probably at next year's WrestleMania, I would imagine. But I mean, can they drag it out until then? Looking at what's just happened at SummerSlam,
exactly. I mean,
is it going to be?
I have been fully invested in this story right until this moment, and I think it's reached its peak, and now it's just going to be downhill.
I'll tell you what. I think there's some legs in Solo. I mean, because you can do more with him, but I think that's all you've got left now.
Yeah, and I think it would be too early to put him in the world title picture as well.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah,
it's a shame, mate.
They should have dropped the title to Cody. It makes that now make way more sense. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess. But there we go. Is what it is, mate, innit? Is what it is. Was the boxing good?
No. I mean, it was always going to be the spectacle of Jake Paul facing another former MMA fighter. And Nate Diaz did way better than the majority of people Jake's faced, but he clearly wasn't that interested because he was nowhere near like the Nate Diaz that fought in MMA.
Okay.
And Jake ended up winning. So yeah, I want to see his jaw get absolutely spun. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't pay for it. Let's just say that.
It was all a work, though, isn't it?
Well, no, they are run by a state commission, so it is legit.
Okay.
But he's handpicking his opponents.
Right. Okay. Well, he's making money, so good luck to the kid. But it ain't.
Yeah. I mean, he's only fought one actual boxer, Tommy Fury, who's not that good, and he was schooled in that match. So he went back to fighting MMA fighters.
Right. Okay. And what was the third thing you watched?
UFC.
Oh yeah. Good.
That was crap as well.
Brilliant. So SummerSlam, being bang average, was actually the best show of the weekend.
It was certainly better than Collision, which got less than 400,000 viewers. Which is,
but it's gonna struggle, isn't it? Because it's running up against it's running up against SummerSlam, so it's gonna struggle.
Yeah, but we had the real world champion on there now with his definitely not knockoff NWO title, AEW title with the big letter X on it.
Spoilers, Magsy. Spoilers. Charlie hasn't seen it yet.
Oh well, that was last week's Collision.
Yeah, I know. We've got quite a bit of catching up to do.
Apologies if there is a belt that has got an X on, then the X division belt
from TNA.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been watching quite a bit of TNA actually. I got
I'm sorry for your loss.
Why you got to be a prick about it? TNA's great. Oh, let's just move on, shall we? You pain in the ass, you are. Any chicken news, Maxie? We're going straight into the Hall of Lane this week.
No, we've got a little teeny bit of chicken news.
Chicken news with Mags, only on Chain Wrestling.
So for this week's chicken news, and it's probably the best news that could be happening with my chickens, I suppose, is that the whole group of chickens are now fully integrated, and the way that you can tell that is when the original chickens get back to their laying schedule. So I think I mentioned last week how only 2 of the chickens have been consistently laying, because when chickens get stressed, one of the first things that stops is egg laying. And obviously introducing 4 new chickens to a group is quite stressful. But this week, all 4 of the original chickens have all been consistently laying again. So it looks like there's peace in the chicken household from now. Yep. So that's this week's chicken
All one
news.
great big happy family then.
One big happy chicken family, yes.
Yeah, lovely stuff, mate. That's what we like to hear, innit? That's what we like to hear. Good stuff, pal. Good stuff. Oh, okay. So then, I know, because you've already warned me, that your Hall of Lane is quite in depth this week and quite almost personal, but you've not told me why. So,
well, I didn't realize it was as personal as it is until I was typing up my notes for it. So
interesting.
Let's get into it.
The Hall of There we go. And I'm watching the little thing now to make sure I get unmuted before I start talking. Pain in the ass, isn't it, eh? Magsy, what you got for us? So,
this is a Hall of Lame that I mentioned to you a few weeks ago for a potential entrant. But when I was speaking to you about it, I said I didn't have a lot of the details, and they were getting quite hard to come by. So I thought I'd put this on the back burner in case anything, any fresh information come out, or I was able to get all of the information that I wanted to kind of flesh it out. And I got that information this past week. So yes, this week's Hall of Lame entry is a guy called Stephen Gauntlet and the torrid history of 1PW.
Okay.
So Stephen Gauntlet, a guy from Doncaster, he was the owner of a company called One Up Games, which was a wrestling memorabilia and games company. He had links with all the major companies. Yeah, he was actually an official retailer of WWF figures. And he founded this wrestling company called 1PW in 2005. They had their first show from the Doncaster Dome, and it was called A Cruel Twist of Fate, which it got that title from, obviously, Matt Hardy and the Twist of Fate, because Matt Hardy was supposed to be like the big star attraction for that show, but unfortunately wasn't able to turn up, but they kept the name. And it actually featured some pretty big wrestling names, the likes of Chris Sabin, Jerry Lynn, Steve Corino, Al Snow, AJ Styles were all on this early show.
Okay.
Then we got into 2006, and the shows got even bigger. They had more talents like Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, and even Bret Hart showing up for an appearance.
Wow.
But with booking all these huge stars, you get a massive financial cost. And that was one that this company couldn't pay. And in January of 2007, they sent out a press release and announced that 1PW was going into liquidation, and that all of the upcoming shows were cancelled. And the press release also gave information about how fans would go about getting refunds. Stephen Gauntlet, the then owner, issued a personal statement. He thanked the fans and talent for their support, but then ended it with a suspicious mention of an undoubted mountain of drivel that the internet sites will no doubt report on. So some of the guys involved in 1PW were able to run a farewell show. The card obviously much less stacked because the funds were just not available to pay the huge stars, and with that, 1PW were no more.
Okay.
That was until 3 months later when 1PW announced a resurrection show. So this was Back from the Dead #1.
Number one. Okay.
#1. The company continued to run shows with the big name wrestlers just as they had before, flew in from the States, and they even had El Generico defending the PWG title on one of the shows. Eventually, Gauntlet left the company in 2008, and it was taken over by a group of the wrestlers, including El Ligero, Dragon Isu, and Danny Rod, a guy who eventually became the sole owner of the company. So under Danny Rod's watch, 1PW continued its tradition to book huge name stars with very little thought to balancing the books. And in 2010, the company announced it was shutting its doors and cancelling its future events with immediate effect for a second time.
Right.
But this time it was accompanied with stories of none of the talents getting paid and none of the fans being able to get refunds. But the thing with 1PW was that they had a very loyal fan base. And some of these fans started to take it upon themselves to find new investment, and it seemingly did the trick because the company website was updated with a message saying that 1PW was back and it would be better than ever. So that was Back from the Dead #2.
And that was fan funded, was it?
The fans led the charge to get this company back up on its feet.
Right. Okay.
So it appeared that it had worked, and 1PW was going to be better than ever. Because in 2011, they announced that the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, would be appearing at a 1PW show in Doncaster.
Right.
He was already booked to do a meet and greet in Oxford. This was in the year or so after he'd retired from WWE. So he was booked for a meet and greet in Oxford, and whilst over in the UK, he had a booking with 1PW. They also then announced that 1PW will be doing a tour of the Middle East and having a stop off in Dubai. So it sounded like everything was coming up roses for the company.
Yeah, looking good, looking good.
Getting to July of 2011, the meet and greet was cancelled, and fans wanted to know just how 1PW stood with that appearance. Mark Sloan, who had a former wrestler who had organised the meet and greet, he confirmed that the meet and greet would definitely be cancelled and that everybody would be refunded for their tickets, and all his advertising for the appearance would be pulled. When asked about 1PW, he said he had no involvement with that company, and if their appearance for Shawn Michaels was still going ahead, the people would have to contact them and see how it goes. But they would definitely not be in Oxford for the meet and greet. 1PW continued to advertise HBK, so for all intents and purposes, he was still showing up. And then WrestleZone reported that Shawn Michaels' agents had cancelled the 1PW appearance, although Shawn Michaels then took to Twitter and said he was actually unaware of the appearance being cancelled and that he was still in negotiations with 1PW to make the appearance. But before the appearance took place, 1PW went radio silent and their doors closed yet again, leaving the fans without a HBK appearance and again without a refund.
Bloody hell.
Danny Rod, the former owner at the time, released a statement saying that he had been the victim of a scam, but the wrestling press didn't bar this tale and mentioned that it was the fans again that were left holding the bag.
Mm-hmm.
So 1PW were dead yet again. But they then came back from the dead for a third time.
Oh dear.
11 years after the last death, 1PW announced a return show from the Doncaster Dome, scheduled for October 2022, called A New Twist of Fate. PW Torch did an interview with the new managing director, who was Mr. Stephen Gauntlet, returning to the company. And he said it was the perfect time to bring the company back and to be the premium brand in the UK and lead a new renaissance in British wrestling. So during his time away from 1PW, Stephen Gauntlet had been keeping himself quite busy by scamming people with poor quality and broken mini arcade machines, and also retro games and memorabilia on Etsy. He also dipped his toe back into wrestling prior to this new revival of 1PW by setting up a promotion called Pro Wrestling Republic, announcing that they would have a show in June of 2013 from Sheffield. The show was cancelled weeks before it was due to take place. Talent were not paid and fans were not refunded.
Oh man.
So A New Twist of Fate, the revival show, actually did go ahead, and over 1,000 Bane fans got to attend, and it featured wrestling stars like Session Moth Martina, Colt Cabana, Nick Aldis, Christopher Daniels, RVD. They then run another show in the February of earlier this year with Taya Valkyrie, Ruby Soho, the Rascals, and Will Ospreay.
Okay.
2 months later, they held a tournament called All or Nothing, in which they were crowning a new 1PW World Champion. Bobby Fish was in the tournament. Mark Haskins were in the tournament. But the winner was Wet Wipe Willie Ospreay. He ended up winning the title. And it seemed that finally 1PW was back without any drama. And then their June show came around. The show was called Devil's Due. Matt Cardona was booked to challenge Wet Wipe Will for that title. But he took to Twitter to say that he'd not been paid for his appearance. And he responded to a 1PW tweet that was promoting his match with Will Ospreay. And he said that unless he was paid his promised fee, the match would not be happening. A few hours later, Matt returned to Twitter and said he had been paid, but it was just sad that it took a public call out for it to happen. That show did take place. Matt made the town. Drama was over. And then 1PW went silent again. News came out that 1PW were bankrupt and needed investment again. Stephen Gauntlet announced that instead of just being the managing director, he'd taken on sole ownership of the promotion again, and that their upcoming show, which is set for October, called Know Your Enemy, was still on. And then again, the company has gone silent, and there's been no tweets since the end of June. The wrestler Amir Jordan announced that he was pulling out of a July Pro Wrestling Zero appearance because that company was also being run by Stephen Gauntlet the one PW owner, and Amir Jordan said that he didn't want to work with someone as unscrupulous as Stephen Gauntlet. Stephen's Twitter is now deactivated. Fans asking about their upcoming shows can't get any information or refunds. And a quick search on Twitter for Stephen Gauntlet will find multiple wrestlers absolutely shitting on him. Tons of wrestling fans and gamers telling stories about being ripped off by him, and scores of stories of failed wrestling promotions. And I mentioned at the top of this that I had a personal dealing with this guy, but I wasn't actually aware of it until I was researching this. And it's to do with his company, One Up Games. Back in the early days of TNA, they released a wrestling figure line, and it was almost impossible to get hold of the figures in the UK. And my two boys absolutely loved TNA, and we bought a load of the TNA replica figures from One Up Games, but a lot of them didn't turn up, and we had to actually end up buying them from another company. And when we reached out to One Up Games for a refund or to find out where our figures were, they absolutely just fobbed us off. So yeah, that echoes a lot of the stories that I've been reading about Stephen Gauntlet and how he treats customers to his products. Yeah, so this week's entry is Stephen Gauntlet and the downfall of 1PW.
What a piece of crap.
Yeah, and the thing is with him is that he's got a core of people who absolutely adore the guy, who absolutely worship him. But then there's a big core group of people who wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire. I mean, searching Twitter, guys like Matthew from Botchamania absolutely shitting on him. Steve Carino, who did the first few shows with Stephen, says he wouldn't trust him with a barge pole. Amir Jordan, Matt Cardona, all saying that this guy's an absolute scumbag to work with. There's a really good write-up by a Twitter account called Brit Wrestling Away Days, a guy called Ben, and he actually attended the first show, and he goes into depth about all the matches, but also about how his personal dealings with Stephen Gauntlet and how basically the guy just can't be trusted whatsoever. So yeah, what a scumbag. The amount of fans that have been ripped off, and it's just the rinse and repeat of the heat's died off now, let's rip them off again. It's just scumbag tactics.
I don't understand how somebody can be allowed to operate like that over and over and over again, though.
Mm-hmm.
Surely, well, first of all, surely there should be someone stepping in and saying, no, you're not allowed to do this anymore. You're in trouble because this happened last time or whatever. And then secondly, I know wrestling fans can be incredibly loyal to their particular brand, but at some point the fans must sort of go, yeah, hang on a second here.
Yeah, for the recent shows, a lot of fans were skeptical, but the thing with wrestling fans is you're easily influenced when you see the talent that's allegedly booked on the shows, and you think it won't do it again, surely, and then it does screw you over again.
What a piece of shit. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame and a Pimple Dick Award wrapped into one there, Magsy, I think, isn't it, really?
It's a brutal one. It's
a piece of crap.
The amount of people. I mean, I've listened to various interviews with the guy as well, and he does sound so passionate about wrestling. He speaks about how wrestling basically saved him from being a drug addict and things like that. And then he does shit like this, which makes you just not like the guy whatsoever. So yeah, fuck Stephen Gauntlet.
Yeah, indeed, mate. Indeed. Absolute piece of shit. After that incredibly well-produced, well-typed out, well-thought out, well-researched segment there, it's a good job mine is a little bit shorter, isn't it?
Here's
Otherwise
mine, 2 lines.
Excuse me, sorry. My Hall of Fame entrant this week is actually inspired by a conversation I had with friend of the show, Total Stevo. It's something that when I thought about it, I was like, I need to talk about this on a podcast, really. And I thought, well, this is perfect for the Hall of Fame because it is something in wrestling that is ridiculous and lame and so on. But at the same time, I thought I must have put this in before because of the hatred I have for this kind of shit. But it turns out I haven't. So I'd just like to ask you a quick question, and I think it's pretty obvious when I start listing the names. What do the likes of Hulk Hogan, Hawk from the Legion of Doom, the Ultimate Warrior, Sting, all have in common?
Um,
And there are plenty of others as well.
Okay. Mustaches.
Close, but no cigar, my friend.
Face paint.
Well, again, very close. Sorry. Thank you, Charlie. Do you want to come and say hi quickly? Stick your head on screen? No, come on, come say hi. No, okay, no worries. Charlie just bringing me a cup of tea. Ain't she a good girl? Thank you, Charlie. They all have, at some point in their career, whether on one occasion or multiple occasions with certain individuals, stood up straight after taking a pile driver.
Oh, no selling bitches.
Now, I can appreciate with certain wrestling characters, certain wrestling storylines, and certain presentations of individuals, no selling moves can be part of that. For example, when Brock Lesnar first appeared on the scene and was going in and smashing the crap out of everyone and then was wrestling handicap matches against the Hardys and so on, the only thing he sold, I think, was when maybe one of the Hardys kicked him in the bollocks. And that works. That's fine. You know, Batista was very similar when he first started off as well. But if at any point you're in the ring with a professional wrestler, I don't care if you're Brock Lesnar, you're Batista, you're Hulk Hogan, I don't care who you are, and this professional wrestler picks you up and then drops you on the top of your head, you should not be able to stand straight back up. And the purpose of it is to get a pop from the crowd, is to get a reaction from in that moment. But again, it comes back to so much of, I suppose people call it a modern day problem, but you go back to when Hawk was doing it in Jim Crockett Promotions, Hogan was doing it in the 80s with Paul Orndorff on a regular basis. This isn't a new thing. This is going back decades. It's what happens next, what goes on in the future. Because that move now doesn't mean shit anymore. You know? And obviously, I've got my issues with the overuse of super kicks. I've got my issues with the overuse of DDTs. But this was literally a conversation I had with Steve.
Destroyers.
Oh, don't even start me off on that bullshit. It's the biggest thing for me in pro wrestling is the art of pro wrestling is convincing people it's a real sporting contest. And then you get the other side of it where it's got to be entertaining as well and so on. If you are dropped on your fucking head, you stay down for 3 seconds. That's the way it should be. I don't care if you're almighty orange and wearing red and yellow, or you've got spikes on your shoulders or whatever. I don't care. If you jump up from a pile driver and no sell it and just stare back at the guy, you're an asshole because that ruins it for everybody else. And it's just nonsense to get a reaction in that moment. So that is my Hall of Fame entrant this week. No selling pile drivers, mate.
Cheers for thinking about that one just as we started recording.
I didn't. I told you it's a conversation I had with Steve. I went, you know.
No, I just love the effort you don't put in.
Brilliant. You're an asshole. You know that. You really are a piece of shit.
Listen, Gramps, relax.
Don't even start that crap. Those are your entrants into this week's Hall of Fame. We have what was the guy's name? Stephen Gauntly. Stephen Gauntly. Okay. We have Stephen Gauntly and people no selling pile drivers to Hall of Fame entrance this week. Magsy, a little bit in the chat for us to look at, and I suppose we better get on to our non-wrestling topic, haven't we?
Yes, we shall. So Dan has got a great idea for Roman has to take a bit of time away, give LA Knight the US title and have him as the top SmackDown bill. Yeah, that's a brilliant idea because he's drawing huge pops, absolutely huge pops. I mean, Another gripe I had with SummerSlam was that stupid Slim Jim Battle Royal.
Right.
Absolutely ridiculous. I get why, because apparently it was the deal that they struck with Slim Jim was ridiculous amounts of money. But then they bumped matches like Trish versus Becky off the card, which is Rhea Ripley was bumped from the card because of it. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, a bit daft. But I suppose at the same time, especially with Trish versus Becky, let's see what happens on Raw first, because they might need more time, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because what was that battle royal? 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Who says they aren't going to go 25 on Raw? We don't know yet, do we? So
we'll see. I mean, Mr. Levesque does say the story is never ending WWE, so we'll see.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Dan Griffin says, to be fair, Solo is the one that Roman has actually looked afraid of. Yeah, I mean the guy is a future world champion, but it's too early for him yet, and I think they've just jumped the shark with this Jimmy and Jay stuff. Dan also says it was a Jake Paul fight. It's never good. Connor says watched a little bit of SummerSlam, like what he saw. Just need to get to watch wrestling on the regular. But that's hard when you cover football for Albert. Hey, well, it's juggling all these balls, sir. You've got to keep them all up in the air. Graham from Good Cop, Bad Cop. Hello, sir. How are you? Tough 18 holes on the disc golf. Fuck. Oh, we've had this conversation before, Graham, and it is not. It is it's frisbee for grown-ups. Now listening in whilst I get my breath back. Shouldn't take that long then, should it? King Pigs Banners calling Stephen Gorton there cock womble, and then saying that Hook sells way too often. And he was also followed.
No cells.
No cells, sorry. I actually thought he said Hawks no cells way too often. And then I thought, well, he's selling death pretty well because he's
yeah.
He's not kicked out of that
God.
yet.
He's not, mate. He's not.
King Pigs Banner says Slim Jim followed him today. Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, okay.
And then he said, that's a lie, Mags. Triple H said it was never meant to be on SummerSlam. What the match, Trish versus Becca, I would assume you mean.
I'm guessing that's what he's referencing. Yeah.
Anyway, having a Slim Jim Battle Royal was ridiculous, even though they do follow King Pig's Bladders. And the last one, Graham says, I'm just glad Five Nerds Go isn't here to comment about disc golf. Yeah, because it would get called something very nonsense, I would assume.
Do you know what I got about this old disc golf, right?
It's frisbee.
Yeah, but so I don't know whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, like these little reel videos you get, and it sort of gives you a suggestion. You click on it, and then whatever. There's some bloke just chucking a frisbee for miles and bending it around a couple of trees and getting it in the net thing to score a goal or whatever it is, or basket or whatever. And I thought, oh, that looks quite cool. So I flicked to the next one, and there's somebody doing it again, and it's going round some more trees and spinning at a certain angle, and oh, that looks quite cool. Before I know it, 45 minutes has gone by, and I've been watching this.
You fell into a rabbit hole. You've gone into don't become a disc golfer. Do not become a disc golfer. No.
I think when you see the clips of these people like throwing it in a certain way, and it probably spins and bends around the trees and all that, I think that looks spectacular.
And those guys are probably the creme de la creme. The super talented ones, but the majority of people throwing a frisbee will end up with it stuck in a tree, or like hitting a car in the car park, or landing in the river. That's all it is. And then you probably get people like Graham who take a boomerang instead and just twats himself on the head when it comes back at him.
Brilliant. We should have a go, Magsy. We should find a disc golf course halfway between Burnley and Gloucester, and we could film it for a live show.
Hands and clap.
It could be such good fun, mate.
it could, but then also a colonoscopy could be fun as well.
Okay, shall we? Shall we get on to our non-wrestling topic, bud?
Let's do it.
NWT time. Oh, no wrestling talk here. It's the non-wrestling topic.
Lovely. Nice. Lovely. Nice. Ooh, lovely. Lovely.
Okie dokie then. Am I back? Yes, I'm back. Bloody thing. Right. Our non-wrestling topic this week was quite simply, what can you not live without? And we had some wonderful answers and some that genuinely made me laugh. Really, really, really made me laugh. Sharon in the chat there saying Mags is feeling particularly sassy today.
What do you think? I think I'm quite calm and collected, Sharon.
Sassy Mags.
Before we get into the topic, there's a comment here by King Pigsbladder saying, imagine throwing the frisbee off the top of the cheese rolling hill. It would never land. That reminded me of a story I read today, and it's actually a really sad story.
Brilliant. Let's go for it.
Yeah. Before we get on to the hilarious non-wrestling topic, but when I read this story, I instantly thought of Gloucester and the cheese rolling. So there's a guy, and I can't remember his name, Giacomo something or other, Bobbity Boobity. And he owned a company that made cheese, like the big wheels, like the 40-kilo wheels of cheese. And he was checking his stock, and one of the shelves broke, and he was crushed under a mountain of cheese. And it took the Italian fire brigade 12 hours to find his body, and there were $7 million worth of cheese ruined when the accident happened. So yeah, that made me think of Gloucester and how you may not have a cheese rolling competition this year because it's crushed a poor Italian man. Yeah.
Did he die? Did he?
Yeah, he died. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And according to like his friends and family, he was the nicest guy as well. But yeah, these cheese holes are huge, and it said that one of the bottom shelves collapsed, and it just brought down the whole of this massive shelves of cheese and crushed him.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, sad. Anyway, no wrestling topic.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Mags. Yes, what's the one thing you can't live without?
Cheese.
Cheese, yeah. Okay. Bloody hell. We said as well, no smart fuckers out there are saying, food, water, air, etc. And I tagged UTT Rob in it because we knew it was going to be him, didn't we, all along? We know it's going to be Rob going, oh, actually, you can't live without food or water or blah, blah, blah. So we had to do that, didn't we? Let's be honest. Love you, Rob, but we had to. Dan Griffin starts us off at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He says, smart arsery aside, I'm going to say wrestling. Since I was a child, wrestling has been an escape, a comfort, a passion, and an entertainment. Wrestling has provided some of the best, most fun moments of my life and helped me through some of the worst. It's flawed as hell, but I love it. Yeah, totally.
Cannot disagree with that whatsoever. I mean, many people know that I had a period where I was well out of the wrestling scene, but yeah, wrestling has been really important to me over these last few years, and yeah, I've made some really good friends because of it. So yeah, wrestling is definitely something that I couldn't live without.
No, 100%. Dan Griffin also says, but also trees. Because
So it wasn't. We were swerved all along. It wasn't UTT Rob that became the dick. It was his underling.
His
Mr.
underling.
Griffin. Yeah. His
So
sidekick.
What are you saying? He's the assistant on the UTT podcast, is he?
Assistant.
Rob's the main event.
The assistant to the assistant, probably.
And Dan is like the Slim Jim Battle Royal somewhere in the middle of the card. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, Dan says, but also trees. Because without trees taking in carbon dioxide and putting out oxygen, we'd all be dead.
Very true.
For fuck's sake. Rob at UTC Rob on Twitter says, well, if water, air, and food are taken care of, I assume the etc. means everything that assures biological function. You are right to assume that. That's exactly the thought process I had. So the thing that would be highly unlikely we could live without would be the laws of physics, apparently.
Yeah, that's also very true. Or gravity.
Yeah, well, he says here, I can't wait for Psy to trade a Megadeth album for Light or Gravity.
I think that'd be a fair trade.
Depending on which album it is. You know, Super Collider is pretty shit. They can take that if it means I get my Gravity.
Gravitate or Super Collider? How long can I have to think about it?
It is a crap album, to be fair. Graham at Good Cop Bad Cop Wrestle on Twitter. He says, my iPod 256 gig has my full music collection, comedy albums, podcasts, audiobooks, etc., etc. I bought one more when they were announced. I bought one more when they announced they were stopping making them, hoping current one lasts so I don't have to use it for a while, as there will be a day where I don't have a working one though. Okay, and it's the grey one with the disc thing in the middle he's talking about, you know?
The wheel.
Yeah. I never had one of those.
I had a Nano. I bought a Nano once.
Okay.
But I barely used it. I'm not a massive Apple products fan.
Okay, dope. No, I never. I had one with like the screen. It was basically an iPhone without the actual phone aspect to it.
Well, yeah, that's what they were.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Danny at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter. He says, "It's got to be writing. I do it every day. Could be having the shittiest day ever. All I need is put pen to paper, and I feel a lot better. It can be about anything. How many limousines WCW used on a Nitro, or a memory of a loved one." Danny has his limo count on Nitro nights that he started as soon as the NWO started turning up. I think we're already up to like 17 or 18 limos at this moment in time. So,
yeah, I remember on the NWO documentary, I think it was Big Show who says that like 4 or 5 limos ended up turning up to a show, and that's when he knew that the NWO had jumped the shark.
Yeah. Who is this here? Facebook user. For your information, Facebook auto subtitles don't work with northern accents.
Apologies, good sir or ma'am.
Let us know who you are in the Facebook group there. Allow StreamYard the relevant permissions to display your name, or just chuck your name on the comment if you don't want to do that, just so we know who's talking to us and we can respond.
Yep.
This is possibly my favorite because it's a 2-pronged answer. It's a double barrel, Magsy. So hear me out when I give this because it generally tickles me. Cam at CamGriff92 on Twitter. And he says, putting aside how much sleep deprivation, financial outlay, increased stress levels, turning the house upside down hourly, and increased volume levels they provide, I couldn't live without my kids.
Oh,
and he follows
sweet.
that. Yeah. And then he says, and cheese.
You can tell that Cam was really struggling with which pick he goes with first.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel that he had a second tweet wrote out like praising cheese, and then the reply would have been, "Oh, and my kids."
Yeah. It's just brilliant, isn't it? All the noise and I couldn't live without my kids though. Oh, and cheese. Couldn't live without cheese, he says. Even with what I suspect is a mild intolerance to lactose, I ain't never stopping eating that stuff. Apart from blue cheese, that's grim, he says.
He ain't never stopping. That's a double negative there. So he is stopping.
Let me just check. I ain't never stopping eating that stuff.
Yeah.
Is that like a triple negative? I ain't never stopping eating that stuff.
No, because stopping in this context is the action, the doing word.
Okay.
But he said he ain't stopping, and then he's put never in the middle, so that cancels out the ain't because it's basically a negative at the same time. So he's saying he's stopping eating that stuff. So it's just kids now for Cam. He's having to
eating the kids.
I mean that's between him and his household. But yeah, he's now saying that he can live without cheese because he's going to live without it. And as Dan says in the chat, for fuck's sake, Cam, blue cheese is this. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely brilliant. Any kind of veiny cheese. Yep.
Nah, it's mold.
And then Rob, smell my cheese, you mother.
Matt Butler at Trey Butler on Twitter. He says, music, my cats, good food, Mrs. Wife, in that order.
Over the cats over the wife though.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Music and good food over his wife as well. Bloody hell.
That reminds me of, I think I mentioned it on either last week or a couple of weeks ago, that I relegated Mrs. Maggs down the pole when the grandkids came along and then the chickies came along. So she's like now the 14th, maybe the 13th, 14th on the list of people who I tolerate.
Ah, bloody hell.
True love.
Sharon has dropped me a message to say that Facebook user is, interestingly enough, Mr. Maggs, it's Matt Lewis, who is part of this network. He is doing The Volley live. We've already had one broadcast from him, Dan Griffin, and Connor covering the build-up to the Premier League and the transfer window so far, running through each club one by one. Really, really good stuff. And you'll check it out on the SJP World Media YouTube channel there. We are also live with The Volley on Friday for the opening game of the Premier League season this year, which is it Burnley are at home, I believe, are they? Are they the home side?
To City, yeah.
That's right, Burnley versus Manchester City this Friday evening. But what I'd like to point out is the fact that part of this network uses the StreamYard, didn't put his fucking name, so we didn't know who he was.
No, exactly.
Brilliant.
Clown. Clown shows.
Ah, dear me. Steve-O at Total Steve-O on Twitter. It's that time of the week again. And he says, I'm doing a Mags. I'm breaking the rules.
I don't break the rules.
I was gonna say,
massage or bend the rules.
It's funny how often people say when they're breaking the rules, they're doing a Mags.
Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, you're right. I don't fucking like that being attached to my name. It should be I'm doing a SAR.
Why? I don't break the rules.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, you have one time.
When? Oh no, yeah, with Baywatch.
Yeah,
yeah, I remember. Yeah, okay, that is true. But we got to see Pamela Anderson in like '96, so it was worth it. Anyway, anyone in the XFM at XFM_ community will agree. XFM, Steve-O says, honestly, one of the few things that puts a smile on my face when going through some crap in life. 20 years old and timeless. Ricky, Steve, and Carl are pure gold on those radio shows. That's Ricky Gervais and Carl Pilkington and Steve Merchant and all that lot, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Steve-O continues. Music, once again, something in which allows me to take my mind off things and can release lots of emotion out of me. Predominantly, I listen to music in the gym, but even occasionally when driving or at work. Just gives you more, excuse the pun, drive. Fair enough. And music's probably one of mine that I couldn't live without because, like, you know, it's just been a huge part of my life. And again, it's that thing of a distraction sometimes, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Steve-O continues here. YouTube, funnily enough, a platform that I use to watch some fantastic accounts. It also allows me to consume the bill on a daily basis. Plus, there's so much different content to consume that I never get bored. Okay.
Yeah, I've got to agree with me. YouTube has overtaken standard TV as something that I'll watch. I think we literally just watch Hollyoaks and EastEnders. That's it. Everything else is either streamed or YouTube.
Oh, okay. See, when I was saying about watching some TNA and stuff earlier on, that's all on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I got the 3-month trial, which I've already cancelled now, so I'm not going to pay for that shit. But I get to watch, without the adverts and so on. Yeah. So maybe
the YouTube Premium.
Yeah.
I've told you, if you watch it on your computer, install AdBlock Suite, and you will never see adverts again.
I don't want to watch it on my computer, though, mate. What you can't see
but
is
you can stream it.
No, listen. No, I can't do that. Who are you kidding? I'll ask Charlie to help me. She'll show me.
You can literally stream it from your computer to any of your devices. It's easy.
Okay.
As long as they're on the same Wi-Fi network.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. I will give that a go. It's not going to happen. And this one genuinely brought a smile to my face to the point where I actually took the time to message Steve-O because it meant a lot to me, mate. I'm not going to lie. Steve-O says, chain wrestling. Literally, of all the podcasts I'm subscribed to, you genuinely are the one I wait for the next episode and are overjoyed when I see it available to download. The entertainment and information you give is wonderful. And I love that, mate. That was really nice, you know?
Yeah, it is. That's the kind of feedback that we live for. We could easily be a huge media conglomerate with millions of views, but nothing would mean more to us than comments like that. The fact that people are happy when one of our shows comes up on their download feed. Yeah, it means the world to us. It honestly does. We're blown away by comments like that.
Yeah, without a doubt, mate. And Steve continues here as well. Here's to another 100 live, even though, ironically, I don't listen or watch live. I'll end on the gym. Something which has changed me mentally and physically and made me who I am today. Do I go every day? No. But when I do go 4 or 5 times a week, I notice its impact on my mindset. And that is very true, isn't it? People say about exercise and so on really
It's
improves
the
their mental
endorphins.
health. And yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be as hardcore as going to a gym. I know Steve was into the bodybuilding world, but even something as simple as going for a brisk walk and getting some fresh air can be the world of difference in terms of your mental health.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. That's all I got from Twitter, Magsy, unless I've missed any out.
You've missed regular contributor Jimmy Evans.
What did Jimmy say?
Jimmy Evans for real. And Jimmy, as we know, is a man of very few words. He doesn't like to provide context. He lets us basically build the story around him. So he could not live without his Nintendo Switch.
Ah, there we go.
Whereas
to the point.
I am totally opposite because we've got a Nintendo Switch there and it gathers dust in our house.
Dust. Okay. Pig Spatters in the chat saying, "Where's mine?" Let me have a little look. Have I missed that off? I do apologise, Pig Spatters. Let me have a look.
I haven't seen it. Oh, here we go.
You got one there, have you?
Yep, he says about oxygen.
Ah, okay. I've not seen that.
So would you like me to read it then?
Yeah, you better add, because I can't read that small writing on this screen here, mate. No chance. I can barely make out where it says SJP.
So King Pigs Bladders at Pigs Bladders says, I'm going to get in there first before some other funny bastard does. Oxygen. And Dan replies, I need to cough one. Look at that. You even get pre-warnings of my coughs, and then I mute because I'm polite, not like that. Rob says air is 78% nitrogen, which is basically just hanging around until we shove it in beer and into crisps. So, you know, packets of crisps.
I'm aware of packets of crisps, yes.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people say, oh, I wish they would fill the bag up rather than give us a bag that's half full of air. It's not actually full of air. It's full of nitrogen, which keeps the crisps fresh.
Okay.
Anyway.
Still could do with more crisps.
I will not disagree. King Pig Banner then says, I've already converted. I only breathe pure oxygen these days. And then you replied, so you've seen it.
Okay.
It's probably for the best. More should follow you. And he's also had a converter fitted for when he exhales. He's currently the sole supplier of electricity to a small Bolivian village. Giving your electric to Bolivia when people in the UK are struggling for energy. How dare you? And you warned him as well, because you said, be careful. These small villages pictured showing children with no shoes and in need of food, a drug-ravaged community and a rundown grey place where the elderly are scared in their own homes. They aren't always abroad where you wish to help. Sometimes it's Stroud.
I remember this now.
Sometimes it's also Burnley. King Pig's Bladder says, Stroud was one of the final proposals I considered, but it turns out that everyone's bypassed the meter and gets it for free anyway. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, yeah,
Maxie,
Pig's Bladders.
What about your good self? Anything that we've not covered?
Or
anything that we have covered?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have a lot of the very similar ones. Wrestling is one that means the absolute world to me. The grandkids, the chickens, the the actual kids, the wife in that order, things like that. And it's probably just spending time with the people who I actually like and tolerate. That you can be the richest person in the world, but if you don't have that that personal interaction with people, I think it can be a very, very lonely place. So yeah, I think just having people there who love you and you love them, and just having that relationship. Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things certainly in my life.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. Mine have been pretty much covered already, I suppose, with regards to music and wrestling, and the wife and the kids. Obviously, it goes without saying. I think that's stating the obvious,
and that's why you don't say it a lot.
There you go. I also, I don't know if I say I couldn't do without it, but I do enjoy a bloody good toasted sandwich.
And your doctor has told you no to them.
No, he hasn't. Sharon in the chat. We might as well scan through the chat now, haven't we? Have a little look at what we've had come in, Magsy.
Well, we'll start with this one.
Okay.
Sharon says that you would put the cats ahead of her if Lemmy loved you, but he doesn't, so it's okay.
I was talking to Liv, my middle daughter, about this the other day as we were walking to the shop. Because, like Facebook has the memories thing, doesn't it? And it's quite cool. Facebook pisses me off, but it brings out Facebook memories. You shared this picture 5 years ago and all that sort of stuff. And it can be random stuff that you'd never look up again. And there's pictures of Lemmy as a little kitten sat on my shoulder when I'm editing, or, cuddling up against me on the sofa and all this. And there was times I bought his little cardboard bed over to the side of the, put it on a chair so I could bring it to the side of the sofa with me and all that. And he bloody loved me. And then one day he just changed his mind, and now he don't give a shit.
Yeah. And now if he could swear, he'd flip you the bird.
Oh, yeah. He wouldn't even let me stroke him. He just fucks off.
You've done something to that cat, and he's never forgiven you for it.
He's very upset about something. But all the cats are like it. None of them are like arse. The only cat that likes me doesn't even live here. He's the only cat that likes me.
That cat's not learned you, though. That's why.
No, that's it.
Sometimes when there's an issue, and I think we've had this conversation recently. Sometimes when there's issues and there's one thing involved in them all, they're the problem.
Yeah, I think
I think it was about CM Punk. We were talking about CM Punk, I think. Or was right. It? Yeah. So yeah, you're the CM Punk in that household. You're the problem.
I'll take that. What else do we have in the chat, Magsy?
So Graham said that his iPod is not the wheel one, it's the latest one. Ooh, Lord of Dog Graham with the latest one. He says, but he did have those two technically as the iPod Touch. So is that the one with this? That's just looks like a mini iPhone then, doesn't it, with the screen?
I think so.
Yeah. Dan Griffin says, fuck's sake, calm, blue cheese is ace. Graham is not happy. The volley recording this week is at the same time as Good Cop, Bad Cop. Not happy, SJP. Better be a one-off, otherwise there will be a network war.
Wow.
Dan wades in and says, nope, it is not SJP's fault. Blame the Premier League.
Hey, Matt just sends me a message. Want to do a show that time? Yeah, crack on, mate. It ain't up to me, buddy. Take a look with your podcast partner.
Yeah, so maybe he's the Jimmy Uso of this situation.
He is the issue.
Yes,
on so many different levels.
On every conceivable level. And then the last one, King Pig Brothers just confirming that his was based on the fact of your stupid, ridiculous, vague rules.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. That's the way you want to play the game. Fine. Magsy, I suppose, relatively early this week for a change.
Look at us flying through it like the professionals that we are.
Non-wrestling topic, a good lengthy haul of lane from your good self, and a little chat as well. And we're already
a very concise haul of lane that you literally wrote on the back of a cigarette packet not 2 minutes before you read it out.
I did it yesterday, but fuck you. Let's talk a bit of wrestling, mate, shall we?
Let's get ready to rumble!
And he's there, look at him, smoking it up.
Magsy, I voted for you this week, so naturally that means I don't get what I want.
Yeah, this was a whooping, weren't it? It was a drubbing.
It's like 60% wasn't it? Is that right?
Well, when I checked it earlier on in the week, I think man had 1 vote and yours had like 11 votes. So you were smashing, man.
Right.
So I made a little bit of a comeback then.
That 1 vote might have been me.
It actually probably was.
Because I shared it and then voted for you straight away.
Oh, sweet of you.
Because I wanted to watch that. But never mind. I'm quite happy with this as well, you know. I don't think I've seen this. I've seen the finish, but I don't think I've seen anything else from this event.
So you've not seen you don't think you've seen this match before?
I don't think so. There's none of it rang a bell. Normally if I go back and watch a match, even if I've not seen it for decades, I might remember like the finish or something like that. But then when I'm watching it, other things will come back to me. I might have seen this when it aired, and then not again since, and I've just completely forgotten about it. Or I don't think I might not have ever seen this all the way through. Anyway,
I've seen it a couple of times maybe when I've gone through like storyline recaps. So I'll watch all of, like, say, Stone Cold Steve Austin's stuff all the way through his like Attitude Era. So it comes up obviously during that, or when I've done a binge of periods in Raw history. So yeah, I've caught it a few times.
Okay. We are, of course, referring to the main event from Over the Edge in Your House 1998. Dude Love versus Steve Austin. But there is so much more going on than just that, isn't there? Austin is the WWF champion. Vince McMahon is now fully settling into the Mr. McMahon character at this point. He has his stooges there of Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe, and they are going to do all they can on this particular evening to make sure Steve Austin does not leave with the WWF title. Dude Love is their chosen challenger, I suppose. He is their guy. He's had a bit of a shave. He's tidied his hair up. He's even wearing a suit jacket to the ring as well. Very much stacking the odds against the champion here, Mags, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. This is comes off Austin winning the title for the first time at WrestleMania, and then leading into that whole Austin versus McMahon stuff. Mick had walked out on the company, I think, as Mankind, and then returned a week after as Dude Love. Former tag team champion with Stone Cold Steve Austin as well, and then got involved in the Austin versus McMahon stuff. I think it was it the match with one hand tied behind Austin's back,
right?
And he ended up giving Austin the mandible claw, which then showed that he'd aligned with Vince, and he was going to be the corporate champion, I suppose, for Vince. And to stack the deck, like you said, Vince had assigned Gerald Briscoe as the guest timekeeper, Pat Patterson as the guest bell ringer, and then there was an offer of almost like a laugh line with Stone Cold. If he can find someone to watch his back, then they can make sure that Vince basically calls it straight down the middle, because he was the referee. I think in the lead up to this show, Vince admitted to assaulting Stone Cold, which then led to Vince getting arrested. So yeah, they were heavily in this McMahon versus Austin storyline, which was just great viewing at the time.
Yeah. You mentioned about a lifeline for somebody to watch Austin's back. It is worded by Jim Ross on commentary as being a volunteer to make sure McMahon referees it fairly. And we get these entrances, don't we? Dude Love comes out. Well, first of all, we get Patterson and Briscoe coming out, and then McMahon coming out. And Patterson is also acting as the ring announcer. And Finkel introduces Patterson, massively overstates how wonderful this guy is, and it's funny. It's very, very funny. And then Patterson does the same for Briscoe and McMahon, and then of course Dude Love enters as well.
And they advertised the Briscoe Brothers body shop as well. That's brilliant. Reading the phone number, the address out.
Yeah.
And Jim Ross on commentary absolutely mocking Patterson's French Canadian accent when he misspeaks some words is absolutely superb.
Yeah, really good stuff. Really good stuff. And then The Undertaker makes his way out as well because he has decided he is going to make sure that this is refereed fairly. And when The Undertaker's music hits, Vince McMahon, his reactions here, it's just fantastic. The facial reactions, his body language, everything. He really sells the fact he's not happy about The Undertaker being there, Magsy, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he said that none of the locker room were brave enough to stand up to him. And if there is one person in that locker room who would stand up to Vince, it's certainly the dead man. So yeah, he was not best pleased.
Patterson goes on to say that he's not going to introduce a bum. He won't introduce Austin. So we just get the glass break and the crowd go batshit crazy, as they do in this era for anything Austin did. And Stone Cold stomps his way to the ring with that familiar Steve Austin kind of
swagger
attitude to his walk and so on. And the match gets underway quite quickly. And we straight away see that McMahon wants to count fast. Off a shoulder, I think it's a shoulder block, isn't it? From Mick Foley, goes down for a cover early on. McMahon wants to count quickly, but that's the only real sort of time I see it, to be honest, throughout the whole match, because the Undertaker then starts hovering around quite a bit and putting him off. I think
he starts basically being just sat on the shoulder of Vince McMahon, and Vince is forever having to look back and make sure that he's behaving himself, because the Undertaker is just like his shadow. So yeah, I think he tries it once, realizes that Taker is not having any of that bullshit, and doesn't attempt to do it again.
Yeah. In the chat there, late to the party, but hey to the CWF, says Cam. Good to see you, Cam. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Yep, Cam, your story about cheese and hating blue cheese, and then not really knowing whether to pick kids over cheese. Yeah, brilliant. Just listen back to the audio. We give you a bit of a dig there, sir.
We then get a moment with Dude Loves Teeth, which I thought was brilliant. It's fantastic. He's got like false teeth in, hasn't he? Because obviously Mick Foley's lost teeth and so on. And he's walking to the ring when he makes his entrance,
and he's showing him off his teeth.
Yeah, and they fall to the mat. And it must be. I'm assuming this isn't. I get the impression that this was kind of improvised on the spot, really.
Do you think? I don't know. Me. I think it's a planned spot.
Okay.
Yeah, but either way, planned or unplanned, it's the crowd just go mental, especially when Austin stomps on the teeth and then essentially throws them at Vince McMahon.
Well, he threw some into the crowd as well, didn't he? He threw a bit into the crowd. Can you imagine getting it on the noggin by Mick Foley's gammy dribbly tough?
That will be somebody's pride of place in their memorabilia, wrestling memorabilia section.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Austin hits the Lufez press and then clotheslines Dude Love to the outside, and then Dude Love kind of takes over for a moment by sending Austin into the ring steps.
Yep.
And we then get, I suppose, a bit more biased refereeing, don't we? Because we get some choking and some biting from Mick Foley, even though he hasn't got any teeth. To McMahon as the referee just ignores this. He doesn't, reprimand him whatsoever, Magsy, does he?
No, exactly. This is definitely showing his pro Dude Love bias here. He's just forever stacking that deck against Stone Cold.
Indeed. We then get into what I deem as being quite long portions of this match being fairly punchy kicky. I know Austin in the Stone Cold Steve Austin era, especially the more his career went on, that's kind of how his matches were because of knee injuries and other problems he had. But this is just a bit punchy kicky before we move on to more sort of shenanigans from the McMahon side of things, don't we, I suppose?
Yeah. It goes into a brawl, essentially. There's a hell of a lot of clotheslines and stomps, and it becomes a very basic fight.
Yeah. The mandible claw is attempted at one stage, but then Dude Love gets hung up in the ropes, doesn't he?
Yeah,
And
I don't like this.
No.
This hangman, it always looks dangerous. Then you'd think he'd learn when he nearly lost an ear, and to not do this move, but he is. It looks cool at the time, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I guess. The competitors headed to the outside of the ring again. Austin gets sent over the top of the announce table, and then Pat Patterson comes back onto the microphone because, of course, he is the guest ring announcer, and says, "This is a reminder to everybody: this match is no disqualification."
Again with the fucking shenanigans.
And Jim Ross loses his shit. It's brilliant.
Yeah, he's fuming, absolutely fuming.
Since when? Since when? He starts yelling, doesn't he? Dude Love straight away then grabs the TV cable and starts choking Steve Austin. And I like stuff like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's very simple and straightforward, but you got, the cables are everywhere. Why not use them? It makes sense, doesn't it?
This wasn't meant to be a technical wrestling match. This was Austin fighting for his WWE career and fighting to defend the championship that the whole of the Vince McMahon and his entourage were trying to screw him out of.
Yeah. Gerald Briscoe kind of gets splattered in the corner, sat in like the timekeepers section, isn't he? And behind that little sort of taped off barrier bit. Austin and Dude Love start fighting that way, and Briscoe ends up underneath a big pile of bodies, doesn't he? Which tickled me. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. The Stooges a good value in this match.
Yeah.
Especially when we come to towards the end, when they both get taken out, but we will get to that.
Yeah. They fight into the crowd then, and the way they get into the crowd is that Dude Love kind of sits on the guardrail, and Austin hits him with a running clothesline, and he takes one of those, quite famous Mick Foley onto the concrete, daft, silly bumps.
Yeah.
But it's not until I saw the replay that I realized quite how bad that was. That was horrible, wasn't it?
How awkward he lands as well. Yeah. The guy had no qualms about destroying his body for the business. What a lunatic.
Absolutely insane. Lots of fighting through the crowd. They're going absolutely crazy, especially when Austin is, sticking his arms in the air, the middle fingers and so on. They're popping away and so on. Really, really good stuff. Stone Cold then, they get back into the ring and Stone Cold sort of positions Mick Foley on the middle rope, runs to basically sit down on his opponent to splash him, to crush him, but misses that. And that's kind of then when we get Mankind taken over again I keep calling him Mankind. I'm sorry, Dude Love, Mick Foley, whatever. He kind of takes control again for a little while. And we get quite a messy looking net breaker, don't we, in the ring? Then we get another one when they go out to the entranceway and start fighting down the aisle.
Yeah, it is. It's getting a bit rough, I suppose. But then that does kind of play into the fact that this isn't a wrestling match. This is a fight, and it's about this point where Patterson then announces that this will not be. Oh, this is also a Falls Count Anywhere match now, which means that we're going to have some more action out of the ring, and we'll go up to the top of the entrance ramp where all the smashed up cars for basically the signature of Over the Edge, and also the Briscoe Brothers Body Shop advertising car. We get a few spots up at the top of the entrance ramp.
And again, it comes back to something we've spoken about a great deal on Chain Wrestling Live here, in that back in this era, and for quite a few years afterwards, I think we had different entranceways for different pay-per-views. Eventually it became very generic, and now we get very generic with these bloody flying computer graphic things. I'm not a massive fan of those, to be fair. But I like this back here when we used to get the different entranceways, the swinging hooks for Backlash, wasn't it?
The Backlash ones were amazing.
King of the Ring with a massive,
electric chair, TLC with all the stacks and stacks of chairs and tables and ladders. Yeah, this one, it almost harkens back to the very early days of the In Your House sets. It looks very old school for WWF. I mean, this is one of the last actual In Your House pay-per-views. But it does give off that more of a gritty, grimy look with all the kind of like scrap cars and things like that. So yeah, it makes it stand out for in an era where monthly pay-per-views were really taking off. It makes you basically be able to differentiate between what the pay-per-view was. Whereas, like I said, now they're so sterilized and so generic.
Yeah,
it's sometimes hard to pick one pay-per-view from another.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really a kind of sign of the times as well, that you know tells you where we are in regards to the timeline of the Attitude Era and where the company's heading and what it's producing and so on. When you mentioned there that it's one of the last ever In Your House events, because this is also the first pay-per-view WWE ran that was given a TV 14 certificate. Before this, everything was PG, and that then ran till like 2008 or whatever it was, that they brought back the PG, and everyone was like, "Oh, we want the Attitude Era back," and all this sort of nonsense. But yeah, this was the very first one that ran with a 14 certificate on it that everyone seems to be so obsessed about more recently, don't they?
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I wouldn't have said that this stands out as a pretty gruesome pay-per-view. I mean, I know Austin bleeds, but Austin bleeding at this time was par for the course. But yeah, that's interesting that it was the first TV 14. They certainly went over and above this in terms of pushing the censorship.
Yeah, there we go. You mentioned, Magsy, that they were fighting on the cars and so on. And again, this is why I like the different entrance ways, so we can have a little bit of uniqueness to what goes on in matches that maybe spill up that way. For example, Royal Rumble 2000 with the fighting in that sort of alleyway bit they had with the pallets and so on. It makes a big difference to me.
Yeah.
And we see Austin gets backdropped on a car. Foley gets driven into a car as well.
It's a stunner. There's a stunner on the roof of the car, isn't there? Yeah.
Yes, and then there's like a street light as well that is swinging around all over the place before Foley picks up a big pipe that they describe as an exhaust. I'm looking at it thinking that's a bloody big exhaust.
It was a thick steel pipe that would have weighed the back end of your car down. But he makes a massive deal that he's going to clock Austin with this pipe, hold it up for all the crowd to see, and then does the gentlest feather light hit with it, and then throws the pipe away. Absolutely made zero sense.
It was like watching when Hogan used to throw chair shots in WCW and so on, and he'd swing it and then just stop and just rub someone's bumps with the top of the chair. You know, just tickle their head. You know, it's. We then get a suplex on the entranceway again, which is basically just the concrete floor, we're told, as they're heading back towards the ring.
It wasn't concrete, though. You could see that it was actually sellotape down carpet.
Yeah, there we go. But that doesn't have to say ring to it, does it?
No,
oh my God! Look at the
suplex on carpet.
On the sellotape down carpet. Good God! Look at the.
Oh my God! Look at that shag pile.
Oh dear. Foley then tries to hit an elbow drop off one of the tops of the car. Austin moves, so naturally Foley takes another stupid bump onto the hard surface because Foley.
Mick Foley said in one of his books that this elbow drop, he actually chickened out from doing it, and that's why it looks so janky. I mean, when you watch Austin roll out of the way, he's miles away from being caught with this elbow drop, so it wasn't remotely close. Again, Mick said in his book that he chickened out, and basically that's why it doesn't look as clean as it should have done.
Oh, okay, interesting. We are back at the ring now, and Pat Patterson trips up Austin when he's running the ropes, And a turnbuckle loses its cover as well at some point here. And Austin's already bleeding, but gets his head drove into that as well.
Yep.
And then we have Foley punching the wound and so on, which again, it makes sense to me. The guy's bleeding already. You should, it's no DQ as Patterson announced. You should be targeting this obvious injury, shouldn't you, Magsy? It makes sense. It's coming back to being logical in what they're producing.
Yeah, absolutely. You find a weak point and you focus on it. And then not long after this, Patterson essentially gives Dude Love a chair. So not only is it no DQ, but the timekeeper and the ring announcer are getting involved in the match. So yeah, this is some bullshit.
Yeah, you don't see Lillian Garcia like hand over a Singapore cane or anything very often, do you?
That would be cool if she did.
Yeah, it would. You just want to see Lillian swinging a cane, don't you, you filthy bastard? That's where your mindset's gone.
She was a minx, was Lillian.
A minx. Okie doke. We get the is it the double arm DDT they call it, isn't it?
Onto the chair. Yeah.
Onto the chair, yeah, for a 2 count. Austin does start fighting back. But we then start, I suppose, coming towards the finish, don't we? Because Austin's fighting back, hits a stunner, and goes to cover Dude Love, Mick Foley. McMahon refuses to count. No, stands in the corner.
He refuses to count when Mick runs at Austin with the chair. Austin kicks the chair into Mick's face, and then he absolutely waffles Dude Love with the chair. And then Austin went for the pin, and then he refused to count. Yeah, so Vince will not call it straight down the middle.
No.
What a dickhead.
Who'd have thought it, eh? McMahon being a piece of shit.
And this is
I'm stunned.
This is where Vince and Austin start going at each other, and Mick Foley attempts to use this distraction to wallop Stone Cold with a chair, but he ends up cracking Vince, and Vince, the king of selling, drops like an actual dead body, and Stone Cold has to wrestle him off him to get away from him. And you can see that Mick has to kind of hold back whilst Austin gets this dead weight of Vince McMahon off his back.
Yes, and it obviously was a powerful chair shot because the guy's out for a little while now, isn't he? Because we do get the
rest of the match essentially.
Well, yeah, we do get a stunner at that point, but there's no one to count the pin for because obviously McMahon is out. A new referee runs in, despite the fact at the start of this match, McMahon very clearly stating this match will only end by my hand. Whether I call for the bell or I count the 3 count, it will only end with my hand. But here's a new referee. Makes the cover. Pat Patterson, though, the sneaky bastard, the naughty little scamp that he is, grabs the legs of this new referee and drags him out of the ring. Oh, dear. Briscoe and Patterson then both eat chair shots. No, both eat choke slams as well, don't they?
Patterson gets slammed through the table, and then Briscoe goes through the Spanish one. So, yeah, because they both try and get the pin because Dude Love was able to get up and put the mandible claw on Austin, and Patterson tries to get the pin first, gets dragged out of the ring by Taker and gets chokeslammed, and then the same essentially happens with Briscoe. The two Stooges are out for the count, and we get to the finish. I think Austin then hits the stunner. Still no one there to pin, but Austin, he's a wily old veteran. He grabs Vince McMahon, drags him over to where the pin's going to take place, lifts up Vince's hand, and counts the pin himself with Vince's hand. Crowd go wild, and Austin retains his title.
Yes, indeed. And the crowd do go wild, don't they? I love the way that they were counting the pin with the hand slap of McMahon as well. That worked very well, didn't it? So there we go. Out of 10, Magsy, what are you thinking?
This was a brilliant match. Not in terms of technical skill, but in terms of getting invested and a great storyline. I had a hell of a lot of fun watching it back. So it's an easy 8 for me.
Really? Okay. I got a bit less. I got 7.
Shock.
What do you mean shock? Why is it a shock?
Because you're always a Debbie Downer when it comes to the numbers.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it because of the shenanigans. I enjoyed it because of the finish. I thought was so creative. The way that Austin grabbed the referee's hand and used it to count. I thought that was brilliant. Really good stuff. But when you break it down, it's basically just a lot of punching and kicking and clotheslines.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the story which makes it exciting and the drama and so on. So I enjoyed it. And a 7, I think, is quite a good score, especially when you say I'm a Debbie Downer and I don't give high scores very often. A 7, I think, is quite a good score, but it's more for the entertainment value than the actual in-ring action. The actual wrestling side of things was pretty basic, wasn't it, really?
It was very basic. Yeah, absolutely. This was more like a hardcore match than a standard.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Should we have a quick scan through the chat, Magsy, before we link elsewhere?
We shall. So, Cam says, "Whoa, there was never a debate between the kids and cheese. I am not an animal. Cheese for laugh." Yeah, well, we said that. Said that you had 2 drafts of your tweet out, one with cheese in front and one with the kids in front. John Mack, hello, sir, says he's loving this format. First time checking it out on here. Might see about an objective lab. Yep, honestly, we have so much fun doing these shows live. I know when we first started, Si, you were very weary.
Yes.
But yeah, I prefer doing these live because you get the instant reaction from the people in the chat, and yeah, it's just we don't pull any punches live. It's not edited. You just get the real. So yeah, definitely try it out and do a live stream.
I'll second that as well, because obviously the chain wrestling, the live show is a Monday night, as everyone knows. Well, next week it's Sunday because it's our 100th live show, but more about that later. And then the audio version drops on a Wednesday. My Tuesday night sat down editing the audio from this, adding the music, adding the sound effects that we can't use on air because of copyright and all that fucking nonsense. You know, it's like, I love that. That's one of the highlights of my week, because I have so much fun doing the editing side of things and putting in like little sound effects and music and noises and that. I love it. So that's another aspect.
And you get to listen back to our bullshit.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. And see how many times I got to cut out you using the C word and stuff like that. No, I don't do it. Don't. Also, John there mentioning about an adjective live stream. You can follow their show at Adjective Pod on Twitter, and it's called Look at the Adjective Podcast. And it's again a fortnightly show looking back on different wrestling events, following WCW along and so on. I've really enjoyed some of the stuff they put out. It's great stuff. Well worth checking out there.
Definitely. Back to the chat. Cam welcoming John to the CWF. And then also asking, why are the entrances way so long these days as well? Seems like they're walking out for days. And Dan says they've got to fill in that time that used to be taken up by the Undertaker's entrance. Yeah, it makes sense.
I like a long entrance, right?
I do.
Yeah.
It's the anticipation of what's going to come, isn't it? Rather than it just being, here's the wrestler and away we go.
Yeah, and also you get to hear the music and all that. And I suppose an answer to why they are so long sometimes, they're in fucking stadiums, why not they?
This is another thing.
You know what I mean? So it's a massive, vast space.
Look at the last few Royal Rumbles where they've had to do a 200-meter sprint to get to the ring. Yeah. Cam says, fair point, but seriously, it seems to take almost like 2 minutes to get to the ring for the battle royal. I mean, the guy is 7 foot. You'd think he'd be able to like 2-stride it and he'd be there. But Cam then says, hey, they're the most devastating share shots he's seen on the watch alongside. The
Hogan ones,
The Hogan ones, yeah.
They are so bad.
And King Pig's Bladder Tips in says, yeah, and we talk a lot of crap. Oh, no, you guys. I mean, we definitely talk crap.
We do.
Cyan and myself definitely talk a lot of crap, but you guys, you are the secret stars of the show. So don't denigrate yourself too much, though.
There we go. So then, Magsy, where to next week for Chain Wrestling Live 100?
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? A big
Mm.
100 show. Our second 100 show if you count the non-live versions. But yeah, it's big. It's got to be memorable. So I mentioned last week that I was hedging my bets with where I wanted to go because I had a very specific match that I wanted to cover for the 100th episode.
Okay.
And luckily, whichever way the vote went last week meant that I could link to the match I wanted. So
Okay.
if we think of important people in wrestling, one of them, well, more than one of them, was certainly involved in this match. But there's you can count on one hand the amount of people who have made such an impact in wrestling that they've changed the landscape of it. One of them, again, in this match, Vince McMahon. Love him or hate him, agree with how he's gone about business or not, he has changed the world of wrestling. It would not be how it is now if it wasn't for his vision and his kind of ruthless business acumen. But in terms of wrestlers, you can give props to the likes of Stone Cold, The Rock, even Ric Flair, to say that they were huge stars in the business, and certainly Mount Rushmore level talent. But when you think about a wrestler who changed the wrestling landscape, it's Hogan. You've got to give that plaudits to Hulk Hogan. I mean, he was the first genuine wrestling crossover star. He took wrestling to heights that he had never been before.
Well, just on a national level, the expansion was enough, wasn't it?
An international level. The guy was known around the world. He was a Hollywood superstar. He was one of the crappiest wrestlers, but as a wrestling personality, he's relatively unmatched. So I thought we would cover WrestleMania 19 when Hogan and Vince McMahon faced off in a street fight. The two biggest personalities in wrestling, the two that have shaped the way that wrestling has transformed, go one-on-one at WrestleMania. But because it's also the 100th episode, it would be remiss if I didn't massage the rules a little bit. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of a Brucey bonus. Two more people involved in this match also faced off in a legendary bout, a bout for the ages. At King of the Ring 2000, Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson faced off for the hardcore title in an evening gown match. So next week, episode 100, two matches. Hogan versus McMahon street fight from WrestleMania 19, and Patterson versus Briscoe evening gown match from King of the Ring 2000.
We've not watched the evening game match before, have we?
No, we have not. I checked the Excel file on purpose.
Well, that's a shame. See, I'm thinking now, Magsy, the idea I had earlier could probably work.
So mention the idea, because I said to you, hang fire on it in case you think there's too much, in case we're giving these reprobates too much.
Well, I thought that once I put my option forward, because it's Chain Wrestling 100 and because it's a special occasion and we got a start time of 7 o'clock, so if we go a little bit longer, it's not too much of a big deal, is it? Because it's still going to be, finishing earlier in theory. I thought we could put Magsy's option on the poll, we could put my option on the poll, and then we could put a third option on the poll for both, because we know how much everyone likes us to cover both. So in the chat, let us know what you're thinking.
We have had an extraordinary amount of 50-50s.
6.
Way too many that could be comfortable.
6 we've had in 131 episodes up to date.
That's too many. That's 5 too many.
Yeah, it is. It is. But there we go. So I want to throw forward my link now. And this will be embarrassing because what will happen is we'll put both up on the poll and you'll still win it and I won't. both will come in second or something like that.
They've already started in the secret poll group saying all three.
All three. Why?
Would be
There
rude
we
not
go.
to do a 50-50. I mean, the
On the
only
100.
way to guarantee a 50-50 would be if nobody voted.
This is true. Well, yeah, but you could vote for the option of both on the poll, and that would
Yeah,
get us. Both.
that is true. Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's kind of what I was thinking. I wasn't going to try and get them to balance out the votes exactly because that wouldn't work. Also, the poll will be up a bit earlier this week, but I'll get to that in a moment. My option on the poll is, and I know I'll get in there quickly now because I always praise your choices, Magsy. I always go, oh, I love that. Oh, yeah, I've not seen that. And this one here, Hogan versus McMahon, WrestleMania 19, is one of my favorite matches because it is just quality-wise, it's not great, but the story is fantastic. The drama, everything about it is so good. The video package going into it is fantastic. Then I bring up my options, and you always go,
the promo that Hogan pulls off is amazing. The one he definitely doesn't have to repeat himself 50, 60 times.
Yeah, there you go. Then I normally put my options forward, and you sit there and go, oh, fucking hell. Oh, yeah, Barry Windham, Dan says, or wrestling from 1972 or whatever. And you just sit there and just slate my choices, and it upsets me, mate. It cuts me deep. And here comes the ticker across the bottom. How many is it? 33 Barrys you listed?
There's 33. There's 32 Barrys better than Barry Windham. Oh, no, there's 33 better than Barry Windham. Yeah.
Rolling across. Yeah, and again, it comes back to what we spoke about last week. Why haven't I just deleted that by now? And I'm like, I keep forgetting.
Barry Orr. Let's not forget. Don't put some respect on Barry Orr's name.
There we go. Barry
Sagittarius.
Barry Sagittarius. Fucking hell. Anyway.
Barry
I want to get out there and say about that because it upsets me, mate. Because sometimes I put forward matches that I love, I adore, and I want to talk about, and you're just like, yeah, it's crap, without even without even giving me a chance, So here's what
I don't think I've ever said anything like that.
Yes, you every fucking week. Here's my option. Sorry for the poll. Then it is a 5-star match from Dave Meltzer. Oh, yeah, it's a biggie. And it is from 1986. Look at his face.
It is in black and white.
It's not in black and white at all. My link is Texas. Austin is involved in this match. He comes from Texas. The Undertaker is involved in this match. He comes from Texas. And also from Texas is the wonderful and glorious Barry Windham.
Fuck off.
I would like to link to the NWA Battle of the Belts 2 event, which was held on the 14th of February, 1986. I think the very first event where the big gold belt was defended, potentially, because it was the 10 pounds of gold before that. I might be wrong on that one, but And I would like to see Ric Flair versus Barry Windham from the NWA Battle of the Belts 2. Yes, I would, because it's a 5-star quality contest, and Windham is amazing in it. Flair is superb in it. He suffers quite a bad injury early on, apparently, Flair, and it still goes on to be an incredible match. So that's what I would like to look at. If my selection wins the poll, or if everyone votes for both.
Don't vote for both, folks. Come on. I've done you a solid here, guys. 2 great matches in totally different ways.
2 great matches, I think, is a stretch.
He's picked ye olde wrestling from the days of Methuselah again.
Methuselah. So those are your options. We have Hulk Hogan versus Vince McMahon from WrestleMania 19, all the drama and the wonderful storytelling that goes into that pretty spectacular contest. And then we have Pat Patterson versus Gerald Briscoe on the same selection from Mr. Mags for the evening game match from, was it King of the Ring 2000? I think you said, Mags?
King of the Ring 2000,
yep.
Yes.
Which is as daft as it sounds and pure comedy. Or we have the option of NWA Battle of the Belts 2, Ric Flair versus Barry Windham from February of 1986. Or you can vote both because it's our 100th episode and we want to say thank you so much for being with us for these 100 episodes so far, 99, I suppose, so far. So
for you guys, I will sit through another Barry Windham match.
It's very good. It is
Because-
very good.
Because you've been with us for these 100 episodes, and we appreciate you.
There we go. On that note, Chain Wrestling Live 100 is on the Sunday next week at 7 o'clock. 7
It's
o'clock
this week.
Sunday. It would be this week. Yeah, exactly.
It is
7
this
o'clock Sunday. Yeah. Okay.
Everyone,
all right.
everyone tune in on the 20th, and
We're not there. We're on the night after.
there.
So no, it's 7 o'clock live in all the usual places on the YouTube channel, the Twitch channel, maybe Twitter, it depends on what we stream to, and the Facebook group as well. But yeah, definitely on the YouTube and so on. 7 o'clock Sunday. Do not forget. And I'm going to be putting it out there on all our social medias so much, you probably won't forget. You'll get so sick of hearing it. But I want to make sure that everyone's aware, because I would like to make this 100th episode our biggest, our best, get everyone in the chat, get everyone involved as we can. But before we go live on the Sunday, you also have more from the volley, looking at live football on the Sunday afternoon. I believe that is Chelsea-Liverpool, I think is the game they're covering that occasion.
I think so.
Yeah. But you can find all of that information out by following at The Volley Show. And also you get it all on SJP World Media too. The poll will be up on our Twitter account like normal, or X or whatever. No, Twitter. I can't do that. X bullshit.
It is X. It's been banned in so many countries as well because X and its links to the porn industry. So Twitter's been actually banned. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Ridiculous name.
Because we will be going live on the Sunday, I will be putting the poll up earlier. So if you're listening to the audio version on the Wednesday, there's a chance the poll is up that evening or maybe Thursday morning, but it will be up a touch earlier so we can get the poll results in, done, the matches watched, ready for the Sunday live show. Keep an eye out on our social media accounts as well for our non-wrestling topic for the 100th live episode of Chain Wrestling. Again, probably going to be up a little bit earlier, but we do tend to tag people in it as well, so make sure you're retweeting and so on, all that good stuff. Magsy, should we scan through the chat one last time before we depart?
We shall. We've got King Pig's Bladders was hoping that when I was talking about iconic wrestlers, it was about Barry Horowitz. But you know, Hulk Hogan has never had a Hulk Hogan appreciation episode. Barry Horowitz has, so that's way more important.
I don't think Hulk Hogan ever will.
No, well, this is true. Cam says Pat Patterson match incoming. Correct, and not one.
Look at that, eh?
And not one from 1960 odd, where who was he even fighting? That you made
Sergeant
us watch? Slaughter, yeah.
It was 1981, and it was. You gave that an 8.
I know I did, but I don't think of the scores after I've given them, and I always shit on stuff just for the comedic value, I suppose. Dan Griffin hoping against all hope that it was a Kane match. And then Dan says, he begs to differ that Giant Haystacks was a wrestler, actor, and singer in one half of the most watched TV wrestling match of all time. But Hogan was consistent with it throughout his years, and Giant Haystacks ended up being a footnote in WCW where they absolutely just took the piss. So Cam, happy with my pick. King Pig's Bladder, before he even heard what your match was, said all three. Then Cam says it would be rude to not be a 50-50. Well, you don't need to have that option because there is the both option to guarantee it. And then Dan, in another psychic moment, said Barry Windham versus who? Correct, because he was always going to be a Barry Windham because he absolutely adores the guy. When he was a stain on the underpants of the Four Horsemen, in my view. So there is that. King Figs Bladder said Sting. Cam says just make sure that this one has audio, sir. Yeah, and King Pig's Bladder says well done, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know for what, but well done anyway.
For putting forward a fantastic match, I bet.
No, it weren't for that.
Was it not?
It was well done. You've wound up Mags again with picking your fucking black and white wrestling from the world of sport days. Johnny saying as a young, plucky 18-year-old on commentary.
On commentary? There's nothing wrong with Johnny Saint, mate. Perhaps I should try and link to that in the week after. We'll see. We haven't done the old British wrestling, have we yet?
We certainly haven't. Yeah, King Pig Brothers confirmed it's a great match pick.
There you go. You can find the whole show, by the
Agree
way.
to disagree.
You can find the whole show, Battle of the Belts. It's got the Road Warriors on it and all sorts on YouTube, so you can watch the whole event for nothing.
And also in the bargain bin at your local HMV.
I wish that was true because I'd buy it, but it's not. Magsy, where can people find you online, my friend?
They can find me contemplating my retirement from chain wrestling if I have to watch one more Barry Windham match on Twitter. But all those tweets are invisible because I don't actually make any. Where you can actually really find me at Podfather Mags on TikTok, where I share the life and times of my chickens. So yeah, definitely follow me there.
There we go. You can find anything I'm involved in via the network that carries this show, and that's at SJP World Media. And make sure you're following on all the social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff, and the YouTube channel as well. Make sure you're subscribing. This is hugely important now that we are subscribing to the YouTube channel. It really helps us out. Sharing it everywhere, left, right, and center as well. It would be awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. With regards to the YouTube channel as well, make sure you're checking out the Volley's live coverage this Friday of the kickoff of the Premier League season. Burnley versus champions Manchester City. Champions of the Championship versus champions of the Premiership. It's going to be quite an interesting contest, I believe. Make sure you're checking that out with Dan, Matt, and potentially Connor if he is there as well. We will be back 2 days later on the Sunday live for Chain Wrestling 100. Can't wait for that. Really excited about that show. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome, loving it. But most importantly, you can find and follow this show itself on Facebook and Twitter at chain_wrestling. That's at chain_wrestling. And make sure you are following and keeping an eye out for our non-wrestling topics, our polls, and all sorts of stuff that we post. And it's the easiest way to keep up to date with what's going on with the network and the show itself. I have had a blast again, Magsy, my friend. Really enjoyed this. Cannot wait till next Sunday. Really looking forward to this show already. I hope we get plenty of people in the chat. I'm sure we will, because the CWF won't let us down on this big day for you, me, and the CWF themselves. It's going to be good.
It is.
I'm off now to potentially go and wait outside HMV and scour the bargain bin to see if they have any Barry Windham matches. I will see you next Sunday, my friend.
Barry Windham is a cunt.